What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today, as you can see, I'm being joined once again by Jake.
What's going on, y'all?
And we may get Jimmy dropping in later on the road. He's currently driving. We'll see what happens when we get there. But today, got a lot to talk about. Just kind of want to go over things. Like, no content this past week. It's just been a very chill week. Oh, yeah. Happy New Year. This video will be dropping on New Year's Day. So hopefully you all had a safe night. And yeah, hopefully new resolutions and stuff like that come to pass. But during the week of downtime, we hit 1 million views, which is fantastic. We had more cards dropped for the draft packs, which I do agree with some people. Maybe they should have been part of Anniversary 5. We'll talk about that a little bit. And we're doing a giveaway with TCG medals. So midway through the video, we'll kind of go over that and how to potentially win that card. Leader, you know how it is. So let's talk about 1 million views.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a couple of, well, not a couple, just me and one of our other local guys the other night about how hard you actually work on the channel. I mean, I recall weeks where there are 10 plus videos in a week. Like, that's like Charles White levels of posting. You know what I mean? So I feel like if anybody in the community deserves 1 million views for anything, like, I mean, even just sheer grind and will, it's got to be you, man. Like, congratulations.
Appreciate it. I mean, we used to do, oh man, I don't know if I want to go back to it, but we used to do 2 camera setups at the shop, and we would get like 5, for sure 4 to 6 good videos for gameplay, and I had to cut back on that because there was just a lot of times where I just felt like I just didn't have time to go through all the videos. And I think it was like a week where I was like, half these videos aren't really viable. There are, I did the math, I think roughly 5,000 plus cards in the game now. Because if you think every set has roughly 152 to 156 cards that are actually different, I'm not referring to all the hollows or alt arts or whatever, like just straight up what it is. It's 152 to 156 cards per set. Obviously I think starting out was like 100. I think set 1 was like 120, but regardless, that's how it's gone. We've had almost 500 promo cards. If we might have gone over that now. We've had 19 starter decks now, 4 expert decks, or 3
2 ultimate
decks. Yeah, so many different cards. And then all the EX stuff, anniversary stuff, and it's just so hard for me to like remember every card, and I have to just rely on my opponent knowing like what their cards do, and sometimes it definitely gets upsetting when you don't catch a misplay that may seem obvious to a normal player, and it's like, I don't play those decks all the time. And yeah,
or especially a player like you where you don't just play meta strategies, where I feel like a lot of players, myself included, a lot of times when they see a card that's not in the current meta, they have to pick it up and read it and be like, what the hell? Like, well, what is this thing? And where a player like you, where you try and play every deck in every set at least once, you have a lot of card knowledge in your head that may or may not be relevant in any given game. And so it's going to be doubly difficult.
I've had it where it's mixed. I remember 2 cards, but the art like get switched in my head. Like it's the same character like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's this card. And it's like, that's not what that card does. I can't remember what deck it was I played it, but I was like, these are my super combos. And they're like, those aren't the super combos. I'm like, oh, those cards do absolutely nothing in this deck. So I just mixed up the arts. Like I saw the card, I'm like, oh, that's what that card is. I know what that card does. Ultimately, just with all that put aside, there's so much I try to do to make sure the channel goes in a certain direction, and I wanted to bring more content to the channel as well. So hitting 1 million views is just amazing, and it was just like looking at the YouTube channel. If it was like 995,000, I was like, oh, we're not there yet. Went to studios. It's like, you hit it 2 days ago. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Because I haven't had my computer hooked up for like the past week. Speaking of promos, sorry. we're sitting at 400 and roughly 80 right now with the daily reveals we've been having. We've had 2 so far every day, and we've had a couple more drop. Just want to kind of quickly go over this for those who haven't seen them yet. So we got Gokua Cunning Slayer, which I do like. I think someone in our Discord was like, "Why are they making more Bojack support?" And I'm like,
Bojack support.
why not? Like, I think they should make supports for every deck that kind of fell off just to somehow give it some form of life again. And maybe some of the cards we've gotten so far, sure.
They're pushed.
Yeah.
They're pushed all right.
So Gokua at the end of the battle, when you use this card from your hand or energy in a combo, you may play it. It's a 20k battle card. It costs 1 energy to do that. You combine that with the extra card that costs 0 to combo a card from your energy. Works out great for it.
Galactic Buster.
Yes. When this card's play, you may place 1 blue Bojack Brigade from your hand in your energy in rest mode. If you do, place 1 of your energies in your drop, and your opponent places 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. We saw before Christmas as well. There was a Zanga who kind of ramped you to some degree, which was really good. So like having cards like this kind of like feels nice again.
Yeah.
It's a 4-drop Bojack that has double strike 20k. It's another one of those ones you pay 1 auto when you have 3 more energy at the end of the battle, where you use this card from your hand or the energy in the combo. You may play this card from your drop. Once again, just like you mentioned earlier, you use that with Galactic Buster to be able to combo without having to pay the energy cost. I can't remember if the Bojack Brigade deck ignored combo costs on certain cards, not because these are 1k, one energy, 5,000 combo cards.
I don't remember. I want to say the Bojack leader might have, and then a lot of them say like draw a card on them, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, the leader didn't draw on the front side, and that was kind of what it did.
Let's find out. So I'm pulling up right now. It's the blue one. Yeah, reduce the combo cost of mono blue Bojack Brigade cards in your hand by 1. So yes.
Yeah.
I just can't remember. Trevor's our big Bojack player, and I think Fluff played it once. That's about it, though. Cards that I think are really good. I don't know if we really needed them or not. Golden Frieza, Return of the Destroyer, deflect, double strike for 2 energy, 4 Z energy, but for
Color.
each green. It's
Green.
pretty much for the cooler deck. These next couple cards are for the cooler Unison deck. For each green Unison in your drop, reduce a Z energy cost in this card in your deck, Z deck by 1 up to 2. So initially it'll just be 2 Z energy, 2 energy to play this card. It's like it's deflect, double strikes, 20k. Once per turn, if it's your turn, when your green Unison is placed in your drop, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, KO it. This card gets 5,000 power for the turn. So it helps it keep it sorry, it doesn't help keep it alive, but it helps make it a 25k double strike. You're also popping a card. So a lot of cards that had barrier protection are now.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Is that once per turn?
Yes, it is once per turn.
Okay.
Activate main once per turn for 2 green. If your leader is Green Frieza Clan card and you have 4 more energy, play 1 green Unison with specific cost of 3 or less from your hand with a marker on it. Now, you're paying 2 energy to play a 3-drop with a marker, but keep in mind, that particular 3-drop, which is the Golden Frieza Unison, has empowered, so it'll gain markers from the previous one. So, like, if you have a Unison with 4 markers on it, it'll have 5 markers then. So, I think it's empowered 4. It might be 3. But that's 2 less energy. You can do it in your turn without having to worry about using it as the gate, which is kind of good, I guess. But that auto is just crazy, especially for that deck just so easily, because the leader could play a Unison as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get my hands on that one and test it out. I was a fan, not the biggest fan, but a fan of the Green Cooler Unison.
Yeah,
the Unison.
It was a really good deck. The problem with it was back then, the go-to for it was that black extra card that kind of rips markers off of Unison, so it would lose its double strike right away or triple strike, whatever it was, and that was kind of like the way to just stall it out. Like, I remember because Austin would play a lot at our shop, so everyone kind of like sided in 2 of those in their sideboards, so they could just switch over to it just fine. But being pushed out of a Unison meta, and it's a 3-drop, that card cooler may come back around. It may not, I'm not saying, but I feel like it has the ability to come back in the current format. I don't know if it'll be as fast though, but we'll see.
It's interesting to see like how quickly unison based strategies fell off when the Z deck became a thing because they're just inherently less versatile than battle cards now
Yep.
because battle cards not only can you play them and attack with them, you can combo with them defensively and then put them in your Z energy to use as a resource. So now battle cards are really the like ubiquitous card type in the game, and I think unisons will have to either gain a level of power, so make them stronger for the energy spent on casting the card, or they will have to be used in strategies where the leader says something like place one unison from your drop area and your Z energy, kind of like the Red Shenron did with extra cards. But I think until then, it'll be difficult for a unison based strategy to break into the top tier just because the deck is clunkier.
And that's what made Cooler kind of good because of the leader's ability to just pretty much. It wasn't once per turn. You just pitched a unison from your hand, give a 5k combo for the battle.
Mm-hmm.
If I recall correctly, it was just a 5k combo, so it worked from any card. It's been, like I said, I didn't play much of the Cooler. How about I just pull it up real quick?
No, it basically you discard a unison from your hand to give your leader 5k for the battle. So it's like a pseudo combo, kind of like the extra cards were in set 9, like Cease to Exist, where you can discard them on an activate battle to.
It was for your leader or your unison.
Yeah, so you can combo offensively with extra copies of unisons, but you still don't get a defensive step if your unison is attacked because that is an activate battle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then, of course, if your leader is attacked on either turn, you can combo with your unisons.
Yeah.
But now that's not enough. Now you have to be able to combo with cards and then use them as a resource later in the game.
The Cooler 1-drop unison is really good for this deck for that purpose as well. It initially has dual attacks. It's can be at 15k by bursting 1, but not just that, but it allows you to ramp or place any add 1 green card from your drop to your Z energy. So you could put those unisons into your Z energy and then immediately use those to pay for the other cards we've already, like the Frieza and stuff like that.
Is exactly the type of card the deck needed.
Yep.
Will it be on the table enough at only 4 copies at the way that deck cycles through unisons?
It's a good replacement for. There was a one of the 1-drops that like no one ever played. That's its replacement.
A lot of people didn't play Dore. I liked to play Dore in my list because it let you go grab a unison out of the deck, and you would just go grab the other Dore and then charge it or use it as a 5k. It was just basically a draw one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think this card is a fine replacement for that, yeah. Or you could add this. No, I think you would have to replace unisons already in the list.
Yeah.
I don't think you could just add this. The other one's definitely just going straight into the Z deck, though. Probably 2 copies and you're fine.
And the last Cooler support, which I think is ridiculously strong, unique barrier blocker. For each green unison in your drop, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. It's a 1 Pacific cost. So initially, it just costs potentially just 1 to play this card. It's a 20k. Once per turn, if your leader frees a clan at the end of the turn, or when this card activates its blocker, you switch it to active mode. And when this card activates blocker skill, that first one was once per turn auto. So initially, it's a dual attack blocker or a dual blocker. And then secondary auto is when this card activates blocker skill, use 1 mono green card with 5,000 combo power from your drop, and a combo with the skills negated for the battle. It is a more unison heavy deck, but as long as you get 1 battle card into your drop, from that point on, you are able to just make it a 25k blocker, twice in a turn. And if your opponent wants to get rid of that card, they either have to use some form of tricky card to get past barrier, or get over 25,000 just so you have to active combo cards out of your
Combo.
hands.
What was the name of that one?
It's King Cole, leader of the Frieza clan.
Nice. Yeah, I think these 3 cards are definitely pushing Cooler into run unisons, but run as few as possible to get your big golden Frieza online and get your card draw engine online. And the rest of the deck needs to be battle cards that you can combo for Z deck support. And this King Cold, and I think there's another King Cold that came out recently. It's a negate. I think it's a champ pack card that also fits pretty well into this unison based strategy. So maybe focusing heavier on those.
And let's talk about the deck that did it need support. No, but Jake is happy it got it. Trunks Vegeta. So it has a Z Awaken leader for 2 Z energy and 1 energy, and your life has to be 4 or less. It has crit, and not only that, this is technically a dual attack card because once a turn, when this card attacks, it gets plus 5,000 power for the turn. Choose 1, draw 1, or play 1 Vegeta, Trunks, or Bulma feature with energy cost of 1 from your hand or drop in rest mode. But the activate means what makes it initially a dual attacker. For 1 yellow energy, so initially you do need 2 yellow energy just to do its effect. You choose 1 SSB Vegeta and SSS Trunk father-son bonds in your battle area. Draw 1 card, switch this card to active mode. So you do need the 8-drop in the battle area to get this effect off. But you swing with your leader, you get its auto. You Z Awaken into this one. Now it's a 15k crit. If you want to combo, you combo up. Then you pay 1 more energy. You restand it and the 8-drop. And you can swing again and just benefit off another draw, or just play another baby part of the chain again. You can swing with the 8-drop again afterwards. I think having that additional yellow cost energy is good, because not a lot of people were playing the 8-drop in the deck, but like I said, it's a 15k crit regardless, which is just really strong. And the auto allows you to play Vegeta, Trunks, or a Bulma from your drop hand or drop in rest mode. So that way you can just cycle the Bulma if you need to do more searching, or play the Vegeta and Trunks go into more of your chain.
Yeah, I think the Bulma only searches off the discard on the limit 1, if I'm not mistaken. But you do draw a card when it comes into play, so it's like all the other 1-drops. I'm gonna have a lot to say about all of these cards because this is my favorite deck of all time.
Yeah.
For various reasons. But Fluff and I, and you can go back and listen to some of the top 10 videos. We've talked sometimes at length, usually off camera, about how when cards are banned or limited, it affects more than the deck that those cards are intended for. It affects the entire metagame. This Z leader pushes players to run that 8-drop father-son bonds, I think, is it? The Trunks and Vegeta? Very, very hard, because God Sealing is no longer allowed in competitive play.
Yep.
The reason that card is incredibly powerful, but the reason it wasn't played in a lot of early Trunks and Vegeta decks, I always tried to hang on to a copy or two, but even in the early days, I didn't like casting the card. It's gotten better as the game has evolved because of how cheap it is. But that 8-drop Trunks and Vegeta is insane now that God Sealing is out of the meta. There's a lot of bad things that can happen to you, especially with a lot of the new combat tricks that Blue has, because it has no protection. But it's so cheap to cast that if you can establish it and then go into this Z leader on the next turn, somehow keep it on the table for the whole turn cycle, and Trunks Vegeta players, a good way to do that is not activate the effect when you attack with it the first time. It's a 35k crit, that's enough for 2 energy. You just hold on to your activate main and use it defensively when they try and attack it and kill it. You just blow up whatever they're doing defensively after they've already comboed.
It's battle, right?
Yep, activate battle. So, so that's a good way to do that. This Z leader pushes Trunks and Vegeta. I mean, I already love the deck, but it in my mind, it makes it very clear that Bandai wants that to be the premier yellow deck in the game, and they are afraid that Bardock is too powerful and will push it out. Bardock does a lot of the things that Trunks and Vegeta does in the exact same way, but played a little bit less aggressively. It can draw a ton of cards and extend the game forever. So, in my opinion, all of these cards that Bancroft's about to talk about are really good. And it's clear to me that Bandai is pushing my favorite deck to be the premier yellow deck in the game, and I'm super happy for it. Until the next set comes out, of course.
Yeah. Well, let's go over the first one, which this one's interesting because a lot of people were expecting it to be more for Vegito, set to Vegito, but it is Son Goku Vegeta Alliance of Rivals, Barrier. Auto, if your leader is Yellow Trunks Future card, when this card is played, you draw one card. And activate main, if your leader is both a Yellow, Vegeta, and Trunks Future card, and you discard this card from your hand, you to one of your opponent's battle cards or unisons with an energy cost of 2 or less, switch it to rest mode, which is just really good. And it's just locked to one deck for a yellow card. But at the same time, it's a Vegeta target that you can evolve on top of. It has an alternative effect to tapping problematic cards, such as cards with blocker, or cards that you just want to get rid of. They're on the board. Doesn't get past barrier, but I mean, Tier-OS isn't bad.
No.
Oh, and this card has barrier, like most of the one-drop Vegeta and Trunks of that deck.
A lot of people have been playing the Gohan Piccolo secret rare in Trunks and Vegeta. Mm-hmm. Trunks and Vegeta can rest a ton of cards, but a lot of the newer decks, like Gohan, where it's only charging 3 energy, or even Red Sins sometimes, doesn't really flood the board that heavily until later in the game. You know, it might only have 4 cards on the board at a particular juncture. This is a good way to rest an extra card and turn your super combo on during your turn if you want to be able to combo with it for free and push. Another thing that made me excited about this card is that effect is free, right? You just discard it from your hand.
Yeah, you discard from hand. It is limit 1, which is good, but yes.
Which is fine, yeah. You discard this, you draw a ton of cards, and you can play Poutine on your turn, which is kind of hit or miss. That card's value has been shaky lately, and very often it's better to play it during your opponent's turn. But still excited to experiment with this card, and like Bancroft said, you can always just evolve on top of it, or cast it for 1 and awaken and put it underneath your leader.
And going into that card's kind of
counterpart
next stage, SSB Vegito, Fight for the Future. Double Strike, EX Evolve 1 for 1 yellow energy. You get 3 more energy, and you draw 1 card for a yellow Goku Vegeta with energy cost of 1. So you can only evolve this on top of that card. When this card is played, using EX Evolve, you switch it to active mode. I guess if you play it in rest mode, cool.
All the Trunks and Vegeta pieces, the 3 drops have that. And it's so when you cast them from the drop area on your leader swing and you evolve, they go back to active mode.
Gotcha. Okay. When this card attacks, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards or unisons, and it can't be switched to active mode until the end of their next charge phase, which is just, once again, another strong way for keeping cards tapped down. Now, granted, would you play this as a 4 of in the deck? Probably not, just because there's so much already going on with that deck. But just having additional tech pieces is just good.
I would have liked this to have been a Z card, because you aren't going to play... Excuse me. Because you aren't going to play 4 copies of that Goku and Vegeta, most likely.
That's what I'm saying, like, yeah, do you run like a 3-2, a 2-1, like... the ratio.
I think you would... Yeah. I think you would run this at a 1 or 2 of, most likely. And the tap down effect isn't as strong as other tap down effects in the game that very often will keep things locked for a whole turn, not just till the end of the charge phase. but there's not a lot in the game that would interact with that anyway. So I think it's overall just a cleaner way to word that and a good way to enable the Gohan Piccolo, like I was just mentioning.
And before going into the next 4 cards, I just wanted to point out that the secondary auto, when this card attacks, does not tap the card you're choosing. So the card should already be in rest mode for this effect.
Yeah. So ideally, it's something that got rested by a 3-drop Trunks the turn prior.
Next couple cards are really meant for the Supreme Kai deck. Some of them can be used for any other deck, which is fine. But Pan, which is a Z battle card, which I think this is what it really needed. This is a really good card. It does take 2 Z energy and 1 natural energy, but if your leader is Black Supreme Kai of Time, when a card is placed from your life to your drop by one of your leader's skills, add the top card of your deck to your life, because that deck. So Steve in our group is big on this deck. Jimmy was as well, but I've seen Jimmy before just crit himself down so much
Yeah.
for just trying to maintain cards. And having a card like this on the board, like, it doesn't have barrier, but you play this card first, and then you overwhelm some big card, and then you use the leader's effect to keep that card there, and you're not really losing out on life because she allows you to cycle them back. It is a 15k, so a lot of things should keep it alive, but if you're playing against red, be careful on the negs. This is an activate main, limit 1, bond 3, cards of Xeno in its character name. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to Xeno's warp. Having a wave just sniping is pretty good. And I'm going to kind of go over the next one just real quick, because I think all these are, the next two are just straight up battle cards. So, Goten being double strike, and your leader has to be Supreme Kai of Time, because it specifies in the overarm 6 for that effect. Permanent, when this card would be removed from a battle area, remove it from the game instead. So it won't go to the warp if you don't use the effect. Instead, it just goes away. When this card is played from your hand, you draw 1. And I think this is why the remove from game is important, because activate main, limit 1 for 1 black energy. If your leader is Black Supreme Kai of Time, and you have 2 or more energy, and you have a Trunks, in play, you play this card from your hand or your warp, which I think is just really good. You combo it off, put it into the warp, and later in the road you tap 1 to play it. That way you're using Overwhelm. And the counterpart for that is the Trunks, which is pretty much a weaker version of Fighting Its Fate. It's a dual attack 19k, so instead of your opponent potentially comboing off 2 or 3 cards, they have to combo just 1 card off just to protect themselves. But this card, when this card attacks, you use 1 card with 5,000 combo power from your warp. So it's essentially a 24k dual attack, because that's not once per turn. That's really good, actually.
Does that take black energy?
No, it's just overwhelm.
Is that locked to the Supreme Kai leader?
The auto is locked Supreme Kai of Time, but outside that, it's a 19k dual attack. In Supreme Kai of Time deck is a 24k dual attack.
It's fighting against fate.
In a Supreme Kai of Time deck, yes.
Well, I mean, the way the game's going now, I mean, they reprinted Fighting Against Fate. Good lord.
Yeah, I've already sold the memes where it's like, can I stop and pick up my Supreme Kai, my Fighting Against Fate? And it's like, no, you got one at home. And it's like, this Fighting Against Fate at home is this card.
I was talking to somebody the other day about retrains like that Yu-Gi-Oh does. Like, they'll ban a card and then print a card that's very similar, just not as busted. And I was talking about wishing Bandai would do more of that. Well, here it is. And they even gave it a little archetypal flair just for style points.
And the last card we've got so far at the time of us recording this video, I am excited that we're getting Z battle cards for AOD. I don't care about the AOD effect of this card, though. Majin Buu, Pure Destroyer. It's a 1 energy, whatever color. And then 1 Z energy. It's a blocker for 5k. It has 2 activate mains. The first one is this. If your leader's backside is a Majin Buu, leader of Agent Destructions, its front side is facing up. You have 6 or less life, and you have 2 or more energy. You flip your leader to its backside, draw 2 cards, remove this card from game. Why I don't like that is the normal leader itself awakened has to be 4 or less life, yes. So you can awaken sooner, great. but to draw 2, so you initially have to pay 1 energy to get this card on the board, use the effect to awaken, then you draw 2 cards, and then from there you use the leader's abilities. Cool, but I really like the idea of if I'm waking on turn 2 because my leader's auto takes a life, my opponent attacked me, and I happen to use the extra card. So boom, on turn 2, if I go second, I'm awakening right then. It's a hybrid leader. So I'm drawing a card
Yeah.
and I'm restanding energy after I've already paid the energy. And a lot of times on turn 2, I pay the 1 energy for Turtleus. Then I can swing a leader, take the life, awaken, restand the energy, and then pay that to play another card, and then keep still 1 energy open during my opponent's turn. I don't like the
Yeah.
idea of the pseudo awaken and drawing 2. I feel like you're losing out if you don't get to restand that energy. But if you favor that, kudos. I think I'm fine, and I've done pretty well before in the past. And Jake has seen me play AOD before, where if I go down to 4 life, that's when I start playing. Like I think when you said you play against Red at TCG Con, you're like, I go down to 3, and then from that point on, I defend myself.
Yep.
I go down to 4, and then I play. Let's do this now. But the secondary activate main I think is really good. If your leader is black and you have 3 or more energy, and you place one of your Z energy in the drop, choose to one of your opponent's battle cards, place it under this card, and this card gains 20,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So initially, for 1 energy, 2 Z energy, it's a 25k battle card, and during your turn, you activate main, and then it's just 1 Z energy to maintain the 25k. And it's a blocker, so initially you could just activate main, don't swing this card, and you have a 25k blocker on board every turn by using 1 Z energy.
Yeah. I really like this card. I think that I would agree with you that restanding an energy is better than drawing an additional card on an awaken. But I do like the fact that you can't get stuck, and in aggressive matchups, you can opt to awaken earlier and just take the raw combo power into your hand. And then if you do have to combo a large portion of that hand off, you can use this to crack back a little bit with at the low cost of 1 Z energy.
Yeah.
To me, this is like where Z cards need to live, where they fill holes in the core deck. The core deck of AOD might get its Bobbity removed, might get starved out at 5 life. There are bad things that can happen to that deck, and this card does not everything, but a good enough job of plugging some of those holes that I feel like it should probably be at least a one of in every AODZ deck.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. I mean, as of right now, in my opinion, it might be one of the few cards because there's not a lot of options for AOD where a lot of good Z battle cards require more than 1 energy, and a lot of times it's more than 1 specific energy. There's it's just hard to fit it in because like, when am I going to charge 2 blue energy, or when am I going to charge 2 yellow energy, or 2 green energy? Like in
Yeah.
AOD, I barely charge green energy because most of my green cards are cards that I could just draw and pop a card, or counterplay and you discard a card.
Yeah, so to play something out of your Z deck, you really have to almost plan your whole game around that
Yeah.
from turn 1, which ends up being kind of clunky. I feel like Oolong is probably a decent inclusion in the AOD Z deck, where it's just 1 yellow and then 2 Z.
Yeah, I could definitely see, depending on the turn, you could potentially, if you want to charge a Janimba, you can, because sometimes I think it can ignore energy exhaust. Um, or you could charge one of the extra cards because they're considered yellow as well.
The garlic too.
I like that negate.
I mean, if you're going for kill, if you're playing Oolong, you're going for kill
That
that
is true.
turn.
That
You
is true.
know.
What's going on, everyone? So Bancroft here. Just want to kind of go over one more thing. When we record this video, the last 2 cards weren't revealed yet. I didn't realize that these last 2 cards would be cards that I actually am super excited for. But let's kind of go over them real quick. We got first the 8-drop Omega Shinron, the strongest agent of destruction. Deflect, permanent if your opponent has 3 more energy. This card gains triple strike. Auto, when this card is played, you choose one. Either draw 1 card or choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO it. Activate main, limit 1 for 1 energy. If your leader has Agents of Destruction in its card name, and the total number of cards of Agents of Destruction in their names in your leader area is energy. Z energy, battle area, and drop is 7 or more. You play this card from your hand. So initially, this is a 1-cost card that has triple strike after turn 3 of your opponent's turn. And then we have the Geneva Bewitching Agent Destruction. Permanent, this card's original skills can't be negated in any areas. Permanent, this card can't be added to the player's hand. That is from the battle area, so you can't just bounce it back to your hand using other cards' effects. Auto burst 1 when this card is played from your hand, draw 1 card. Then we have the activate main limit 1. If you have 3 or more energy and you add 1 agent destruction card other than this card to your hand, at the end of your turn, switch this card to active mode, which is crazy because it's end of your turn. You get to switch back to your hand. So initially what you can do is that if you establish the Omega Shinron a turn beforehand, you could then keep it alive. It's a 30k. It should be protected for most cases, especially early on. But then on the following turn, you play the Geneva. You swing with the Omega. Then you play the Geneva. Use Geneva's activate main to bounce it back to your hand. Pay 1 to replay the Omega. So it's like a dual attack triple strike in a sense. You also have other ways of cycling cards back to your hand, such as the counter plays, the counter negates. I just think these cards are really great. And I'm super excited to bring AOD back. So that's kind of the cards that, as of the time of recording this video, have been revealed so far. And like I said earlier, we are doing a giveaway of TCG medals. I will make a separate video on this as well because, if you did stick out to the end, you're going to miss out on this part. But I'll have another video explaining more into it. But this is for Jake's reaction and your all's reaction. So,
we get close for this.
This is actually a giant leader.
Oh, Lord.
So, I'm excited to reveal this one. So, a nice little cardboard. But it is the Broly leader.
Oh, dang.
So,
it's the oh shit, he's got the pelt. Oh, I like that, dude.
It is fantastic.
Is this the original or the newer one?
It's the one he has on his channel. He's doing giveaways for it right now. I think other channels are doing giveaways for it as well. But this is it's 4 times bigger than the normal leader size ones. This thing is freaking incredible. Absolutely love it. Down in the description below is a link. It's how we've always done our giveaways. You just go in there. You just say, hey, I subscribed to the channel. I checked out TCG Metals website, and even check out their YouTube page. And it gives you up to, I think it's 2 or 3 entries per person. And then I think we'll let this go for about a week. So until the end of next week on the next.
The 7th?
Yeah. So I should know on the 7th who the winner is. And yeah. So good luck to whoever gets that card.
Can I look at the backside again?
Yeah.
Nicest condition.
Yeah.
Oh, you could frame that like that. I mean, it's only slightly degenerate with him like cavemaning Chile in the background, but you could. That's a nice piece, man. The art came out really good on those.
No, and on the 4 times size ones, it looks like. I remember when I first saw him when he showed. I think it was the Hurrigarn video he did.
Yeah,
I was like, man, that looks really good. And then I saw the Broly one. And I was like he did his video for that. I'm like, that looks good too. No, when I opened this thing up, I was like, yo, this is amazing.
That's next level. He's outdone himself with those.
For sure. So don't forget to check out TCG Metals. That is with a Z.com and get yourself a metal leader. They also do acrylic Z leaders now, which is pretty cool. It goes on top of it. And a lot of times they kind of match perfectly, which is pretty cool. I think when he did the Vegito has one where like you see part of it's cleared out, if I recall correctly, so you can see kind of like peering through. I know he did that for SS4 Goku Vegeta. When you go into the Gogeta, it had like a nice little part of it that was cleared out, so kind of see the backside of it as well.
That's sick. Now I'm gonna need one of those Trunks and Vegeta acrylic Z leaders.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll make that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it if he doesn't.
And
have to get custom made. Have to sell an arm.
I don't know if he will, how he's gonna do that one when it comes when push comes to shove, but hopefully he does make that and you get yourself on that one as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it. Once again, hope you all had a great New Year's. Hope you all were safe last night.
Yep.
This is in the future, so I have no idea. Hopefully we were safe. Yeah, thanks for tuning in and look forward to videos returning once again. And I think that's it. So like always, read your cards, know your plays. Check out the links down below. They help you like they help us. And fluff out.
Happy New Year.